Yeah. Hello, welcome to Chalk Talk, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Andre C., joined here by my co-host with the mostest, Melball. How you doing, Melball?
I'm doing fantastic, Andre. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am doing great. So we are here this week to talk about the PWI 500 and the match ratings and wrestler ratings in general, I would say. Because the PWI 500 just dropped this month, and it's been a point of contention I've seen with a lot of people online that I follow. There's been a lot of people complaining about certain wrestlers not being where they should, things like that. And that's one of the things I like. It really picks me when people look at like star ratings and other things, but don't want to you really truly feel their opinion. That's the real biggest thing I have. I have a problem with the ratings in a sense, but I still enjoy looking at the ratings every year because I like seeing who's on top and who's number one, who's number two. But it's for me personally, it's not going to stop me caring about somebody because they're farther down the list. Like looking at the list this year, in the top 10 for the men's this year, one of the ones surprises me, which it shouldn't be surprising, is El Vikingo or El Hijo del Vikingo.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He had a great year in Mexico, but not a lot of people paid attention to him.
No.
Where this coming out, him being in the top 10, is actually a really good thing for him, and I think it's AAA he's in.
AAA, yeah.
AAA itself to give them a real big focus, I think, this year, because I'm not sure when the last time a AAA guy was in the top 10, but to see that is actually really encouraging. Is why a reason I like looking at these is because these guys show up with guys that you've never seen before sometimes. And but it's people getting mad about where people are placed is what really bothers me in ratings like this.
Mm-hmm. And actually, you mentioned Hijo del Vikingo. He was actually someone who I just recently started seeing over the last couple of weeks after what was his name? Gringo Loco was recently here. I had heard that he was actually going to be going to Mexico to do a AAA tour. So I was like, hey, I might as well get into this.
Yeah.
And honestly, Vikingo was immediately the first one that I zoomed in on. Essentially, I was like, wow, where has this little guy been? You guys have been keeping this one a secret from us, that he should not have been quite so secretive. I was pleasantly surprised to see him in the rankings. But again, as you had mentioned, because, maybe their talent's a little guarded. I don't know. He really hasn't been kind of broadcasted in the same way that some other people in that top 10 would be, like, the number one Roman Reigns, or I haven't looked at the whole list here yet, but like Roman Reigns, Okada, Punk, Adam Page. He's not as obviously well known as some of these guys, but man, he should be.
Well, yeah, he was originally, I think, at one point supposed to take on Kenny Omega before Omega ended up after he dropped the AEW title. He was there. I think they were originally scheduled to face a few weeks after at a AAA show, but Kenny ended up having to take time off because the injuries had mounted like crazy. So they ended up vacating, and Vikingo won the title in, I think it was a fatal 5-way. It had Jay Lethal, Bobby Fish, and a couple other people. But like the fact that I think, and I really do think he probably was going to be taking the title off of Kenny. So I think there would have been a bigger deal made about Vikingo if they had said he beat Kenny Omega, I think that would have got a little more press, but it ended up being in a 5-way.
Yeah.
But like, I look at the list and I look at like Big E being on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he had a very good year. But you got to remember, the way they judge this is from July to June of the next year. So that was this list is from July of 2021 to June of 2022.
Okay.
Big E from July of 2021 till about the end of the year, or start of this year, when he hurt his neck, right? He was having a great year, won the title. He was having a very good run. So for him being at high, I think part of it is there is a sympathy factor in that, being he's out injured. He had a good first half. You want to put this guy higher on the list. I think that will affect in a sense. But also seeing a name like Jonathan Gresham, who had a heck of a final like 6 months of 2021 with ROH, like ultimately deserves it. And then 2022 was a bit spotty for him. We can say that with not occasional appearances on AEW, like not many, and I guess
on Impact too, I believe.
Yeah, and even the thing is, him losing his ROH title is not, I do not think, it is not even in the consideration of this list, because they would have cut it off at the end of June. He lost the title in July of this year. So, like, if you really put together his back half of 2021, and with Terminus also, his own promotion starting up, and him there, I think he absolutely deserves to be there. But the biggest thing for me is people saying this list is gospel. It really isn't. Again, it's based on their criteria of win-loss record, what championships you've won in that year, the quality of competition you face, your major feuds, and the prominence of who you are within your promotion. Now, I've heard a lot of people yelling about, why is Will Ospreay so low on the list? For me personally, I'm a huge Will Ospreay fan. Like, he is my number one wrestlers going today. But I understand why he's so low on the list, because he's lost more than he has won in the past year. Like, when people are yelling and screaming about, oh, Will Ospreay's on the list, according to their criteria, probably not. Because yes, he's faced Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. He's faced some of the top guys in the promotion, but he lost in the semifinals of the New Japan Cup to Zack Sabre Jr. He's lost, like, he won the United States title, but he's lost so many other matches in that year span. Plus, you got to remember, he was out for a month with his kidney infection, and he didn't get back into a ring until I think it was late August, early September. It was the first time he actually got back in a ring. So, and a lot of those matches early on in the later part of 2021 were like Rev Pro and Warrior Wrestling and things like that. Yes, he had some appearances with New Japan and did a bunch of matches there, but he took a bunch of losses. He lost in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. Like, so you got to look at, yes, he deserves to be on this list, and he deserves to have a prominent spot, but 27, I think is a pretty appropriate spot for him, even though I think he was my wrestler of the past decade for me personally. But for what his record is and the criteria of this list, yes, it is purely appropriate where he sits. Braun Breaker, who is one spot in front of him, if I look at the criteria, maybe he should be higher in a sense, because his only blemish is losing the title to Dolph Ziggler at one point. So, and he's been nothing but a winner throughout this entire year, other than the Ziggler loss. So maybe he deserves to be higher. I don't know. I really don't know.
And that's why wrestling is really just so awesome, because how many hundreds of thousands of wrestlers are there actually, out and about and training and wrestling professionally, being paid to wrestle, and they're not on the list, and they are great wrestlers. Maybe they're better than someone like Big E or Braun Breaker. Don't really know who that one is.
NXT champion. Yeah.
WWE, that's probably because of why I don't know. But like it really is. It definitely kind of sounds like I've heard of this list. It hasn't always been something that I've, kind of put on, you know, a pedestal of oh, this, I'm not going to like this wrestler because they weren't in the top 20 or whatever, you know. How I feel about Will Ospreay, how you feel about Will Ospreay are actually pretty similar. However, again, based on the criteria that they had laid out, it's pretty clear, the rules and everything like that. And like you said, it shouldn't be something that's gospel. It should really be something that people kind of look at and have almost like an introduction to the wrestlers that are on this list. They should kind of look at it and be like, hey, I've never heard of this person. I should find out about them.
Well, yeah, like I look at number 13, Matt Cardona, who for years and years and years was a low number guy on this list for years. And last year was number 297. He has taken his career through the independent level and NWA, GCW, a lot of, and a couple odd appearances with AEW last year, I think. But like, he's really turned his career around. He has made himself probably one of the biggest names going on the independent scene today. And it really shows, like, they recognize what he has done. He won the NWA title. He was the game changer. He gave himself an ECW title in Game Changer Wrestling. Like, I think at one point he won the Game Changer Wrestling Championship, and I think Moxley was the one to take it off of him. But he was doing a whole gimmick like, I'm a sports entertainer. I'm the WWE guy. I'm that guy, to piss the fans off. But I think he's had a wonderful year. And at 13, I think is a beautiful spot for him, because it just shows what a guy can do when he really tries to build himself on the indies and do really, really well.
Lucky number 13, huh?
Yeah. But and then you look at Jay White. He's sitting at 23. He's your current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, but he only won that back at in June. So that probably did prop him up the list a little farther than he probably would have been, because he's had a good last year, but he's taken losses when more than I think his wins are more than his losses, but he also was for a good portion of this past year on New Japan. Was appearing a lot on New Japan Strong, wasn't in New Japan proper, and was on Impact. So does that devalue him? No, because look at Josh Alexander sitting at number 14. He's the Impact World Champion. But was he? It's the prominent. The other things are were you in prominent feuds and storylines? What was the caliber of your opponents that you were facing? Those are the other things that they got to look at. And Jay White sitting there, I think, is actually especially with a title win in June, I think that got him a little higher than he would have been. But it's again, these lists are purely subjective to the editors of Pro Wrestling Illustrated and their criteria. It's not subjective to what the rest of us care about, like what we all care about. Yes, for the most part, we look at this list, and a lot of us can see our top favorite wrestlers on this list. And is Roman Reigns my favorite wrestler in the world? Not even close. I don't watch WWE regularly. I follow it through a lot of podcasts and other things. So I'm a big fan. I watch AEW, I watch New Japan, I watch Stardom, and I watch other random indies I can. And if somebody says a WWE match is great, I'll watch it. I watched the main event from Clash of the Castle between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. I thought they had a hell of a match.
Good. But
Roman Reigns deserves to be where he is because he is not taking a pin. He has not been pinned since 2019. I think it was September, September 10th-ish, 11th of 2019, when he was last pinned by Baron Corbin or whatever he was called at the time. That was the last time he was pinned. So for a guy to go 3 years without being pinned and winning 2 championships, being the most dominant person in a company, 100% deserves a top spot.
And especially like we mentioned, based on the criteria for it, absolutely, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I'm also just going to throw in that I'm not going to disagree with the women's list either. No. There, my personal favorite, Hayashi Shida, sitting there at number 2, and I think we can both agree she definitely deserves to be up there for how hard that she works in that company.
Oh, very much so. Like if you look at like this list also came out last December. So for the women's 150, this is the 2021 women's 150 that came out, I think, last November, December. So do know that we are talking about a rating system that came out then. Yeah. So, but to have a woman like Hayashishida go from, I think it says she was in spot number 65 in 2020, and she is number 2. Is crazy. None of the top 5 are in the top 5 this last time, the women's 150. It was the women's 100 the year before. It became the 150 this year. But the top 5 women aren't in there. The closest is Sasha Banks at number 6.
Wow.
And she was number 5. So she only drops 1 spot. But like Bailey dropped dramatically, but again, part of that was an injury. She was out for a while. You got to also look into those things. But like Asuka went from, again, injury, was taken out for a good long time, a good part of the year's criteria. Those are the things. And Charlotte, again, has been on and off screen. But you see women like Bianca Belair, who was number 1 in the last issue. 100% she carried that company. Yes, she took the loss to Becky Lynch, which I didn't care for myself, but she really showed why she is one of the best women wrestlers in the world right now because of everything she did, and again under their criteria has done a phenomenal job and has done everything she needs to do to be number 1.
I have to agree. I'm not gonna cut down that the EST of WWE there.
But I look at it and you go, look at number 4 and 5. They're both from AEW. Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker. They both had phenomenal years and feuding with each other this past year. And before that, Britt Baker with her championship run, Thunder Rosa had just a heck of a last year. And you got to look at both these, like who is showing in there. Tam Nakano, another woman from Stardom, is number 9. She wasn't even on the list the year before. Again, it was only 100 the year before, but she wasn't even on the list. She wasn't even in the top 100. So you look at these, like Serena Deeb, number 11, not on the list. Like
Sorry, number 7.
Up from number 78 to number 7. And I don't even think that encapsulates her title win either. I think that's from before her title win. It's just from the years she had leading up to it. That's the biggest thing. So you really got to look at it when people are looking at these ratings and these lists of who's the best and who's everything. Because like I have friends from the local independent wrestling community that were on this list in the low 400s. Bobby Sharp, Chris Parrish, to name 2 people I know quite well. They both were on this list multiple years, and neither are on the list here. Danny Duggan, who I've worked for in the past as a ring announcer, he used to make this list all the time. He was on this list multiple times. Sidney Steele was on this list last year at like 440 or up around there. I didn't find his name on the list this year. So you look at,
I was going to say 440. That was Gringo Loco, 444, wasn't it?
But I'm saying somewhere in that list of the 2020 list, that's where Sidney Steele was sitting. But you don't see them there this year. So the criteria changes you really got to look at what people are doing every year and what the quality of their matches is, who they're facing, before you get angry at them not being placed on this where you think they should be placed on this list.
I agree. Don't get angry. Just watch wrestling. Just like wrestling.
Yeah, like wrestling. Come on. But the other topic we want to talk about today is, again, if it does go into this, and I think a big reason why people are yelling for why isn't Ospreay higher is the match rating system that a lot of people look at. The biggest known match rating system is the star ratings that Dave Meltzer created years and years and years and years ago, right? Decades ago at this point. And don't take this as me hating on it, because if not for Dave Meltzer, I do not think wrestling journalism and the coverage of wrestling that we have today, like Post Wrestling, SNME, and us, Love Wrestling, any company that covers professional wrestling, Backbreaker Media, like all of them, I think we all stand here today because of what Dave Meltzer did for the business. Yes, it was the dirt sheets. It was getting in there, getting grimy, and finding the stuff out backstage. But it also evolved into creating a wrestling journalism, in my opinion. And what we have today with so much coverage from so many sites, they give us all of our information and give us a look into the other side of professional wrestling. Without him, we don't have that. But I think people put too much stock on his ratings specifically, in my opinion. Now, do I agree? Will I agree with him at times about what he qualifies as a 5-star match? Yes. Do I think Kenny versus Okada deserves a 7-star? No. I very much enjoy those matches, but I've seen better. To me personally, I've seen better wrestling matches in my life, better than the 6-star and the 7-star matches that Okada and Kenny had. But it's again, star ratings. All these are a matter of opinion. There is literally an app called Grapple where you can go and drop your star ratings in on any match, and it gives you the average aggregate of what all the fans show. But it's all based on your own opinion. Again, the Meltzer ratings are all based on one man's opinion. A very smart man in professional wrestling who's been covering it for decades. But again, it's one man's thing, where if you look at his history over the last couple decades, there is not a lot of 5-star matches come from WWE land. But if you look at AEW and New Japan, he's given out far more 5-stars there because it's, and this isn't to slander him, it's his, I think, is what he prefers in professional wrestling. Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, if I was put in the same situation as him, I can't honestly say that I wouldn't do the same. As a predominant watcher of New Japan and Stardom, I don't watch AEW or WWE a lot. So I feel like if we were looking at a rating system based on what I was doing, I would probably exactly do the same thing and give them a lot higher rating. But that's only because that is my preferred viewership. It's not to say that the WWE isn't producing quality matches in the same level. It's just saying that it's just simply not my preference, and that's okay.
It really is, because that's the biggest thing is you got to really look at what do you love. That's what you're going to love. But the other things, I've seen Dave Meltzer put out 4.5-star ratings and 5-star ratings on matches I've never heard of from promotions that has put up rating from like AAA and other places, and it has gotten me to watch matches that I never would have watched before. If Dave Meltzer puts a 4.5 or a 5-star rating on a WWE match, that makes me interested in going to see and actually seeking out that match, because again, it's not WWE is not somewhere I watch regularly. So if he says, I really thought this was great, I would go check it out. If I don't think it's great, and then I disagree with him. But look at us. We each had a top 5 when we did our top ratings of the New Japan the G1 Climax. We each had vastly different lists. We had a common match in the finals match, but you had a number 3. I had a number 1. I had a very biased list because I think I had Ospreay on there twice. I think my original list, I had him on there 3, almost 4 times. I think I had him on 4 times before I changed before I really got critical with my list. So I have a very big bias in who and what I think is great and who I think produces the best, because it's what I enjoy. It's just when people live and die by star ratings and one person's opinion or the consensus opinion from a PWI or something like that, it's where I sit there and go, okay, make your own opinion. You don't have to listen to these people. It's all your choices. Again, like there's back in the early days of Backbreaker Media, we would do at year ends. And yeah, I was very biased because Michael Richard Blaze for we would do the independent, and we would do our television and professional level wrestling, like bigger time wrestling than the local independent. So our independent stuff, I had Blaze almost every time as my wrestler of the year, and because I am very biased to think, because I think Michael Richard Blaze is my favorite independent wrestler going right now. Or at that point still now too, but at that point, so I was very biased, and I would give him. But other people would pick other people. But it's all a matter of what you love, what you like. And if somebody says the match you just watched and loved and thought was the best match in the world was only a 2-star match, that is their view on that match. It does not mean they're wrong. It does not mean you're wrong. You just both have very different tastes in professional wrestling. I will talk about matches with my coworker at work, and he will say, "Oh, I didn't really care for the match," and some matches that I truly loved, but he didn't. And then he will talk about matches he really liked, and I go, "Oh, I wasn't really into that." But again, that is all. What you think is a 5-star match is based on purely what you feel inside.
And like we said earlier, just like wrestling.
Like wrestling, come on.
You're allowed to have your opinion on it, but so is everyone else. And how many people on this planet now? 9 billion. We're all going to have a different outlook or perspective on what we're going to think it is. So, going to the indie wrestlers, you love Michael Richard Blaze. I love the Omen. So
there you go.
Difference. And we've seen them fight together, and they've had banger matches together. Though I'm not gonna lie, that like 3 stages of hell or fear, whatever the heck PWI ended up calling it, against the Omen.
It was an interesting match. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Good times. But then again, someone who might not like that almost hardcore kind of feel might disagree with us and say, "Hey, that's not really my style."
Yeah, so, I'm a big fan of SNME Radio and Post Wrestling, and both companies. When I listen to them talk, and Eddie Kingston, they're talking about Eddie Kingston. Both seem to be very big fans of Eddie Kingston. I will admit that man's promos are very good, but when he gets in the ring, I am underwhelmed by him. Again, he wrestles a style that, yes, he wrestles a very Japanese strong style, but so much of it is based. I have never been able to truly get behind him in a wrestling ring. So when they talk about how good he was and everything, I just go, okay, I don't agree with that. I just can't. But that's, again, my personal feeling on Eddie Kingston. I just don't find him an engaging professional wrestler. But that doesn't mean, but again, another outlet finds him very engaging. But again, it's all about your personal opinion. If you think something's 5-star, it's 5-star to you. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. But again, I don't want to slander Dave Meltzer, because again, his ratings mean so much to so many people. And I guarantee you, just like PWI, he has his own criteria on what he grades a 2, A3, A4, A5 star, or 6 or 7 that he has graded. He has what he truly believes matters in those positions, and what matters to him in a personal matching match might not matter to you. You may have a different criteria. So again, 5-star matches mean something different to every single person.
100%.
So I think we are going to wrap this up this week.
Yes, we are. And don't forget to check out our good friend Mike the Ref over at Backbreaker Media. He does upload is it Thursday there, Andre? Somewhere up above here.
he has uploads every week. All the content that comes off his Twitch channel at Mike the Ref. He has it all coming. He has all his stuff from there. Then he usually, after we drop our show, he will usually put this same episode up on his channel about 4-ish days later. A rough handful of days later. So we thank him very much for giving us an outlet on Backbreaker Media. Thank you so much, Mike. And then you can check him out on Twitch multiple days a week at Mike the Ref. I think I said Twitter last time. I apologize. He's on Twitch at Mike the Ref. You can catch us at the address above, Andre and Melball Wrestling Talk. If you are watching on Backbreaker Media, this is our channel. Or if you're watching on Facebook or anywhere else, check us out and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can check me out on Twitter at That Canada Guy. You can check Mel out at Collins Melball. On Instagram, I think I have the wrong graphic up here. It's supposed to be Melball Collins. I apologize. I forgot to edit this one. And I am
link in the description box below.
I am at That Canada Dude. Twitch will be coming soon from us. Video games, we will be doing some watch-alongs coming up soon. Hopefully for the Royal Quest weekend, we're hopefully going to be able to do a watch-along at least one of the 2 nights. So, yeah.
Excellent. And without further ado, I am the Melball. Shout out to the Astrid. That is Andre. We'll see you next week when we do our next episode of NJPW Por Su Review.